Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wealthy Wednesdays this week on Sunday. As you know, or as you may not know, if you've not seen, we are doing a bit of a special at the moment in the Ladies Lounge group on men because we love men. And we would like to invite you to have a different possibility with men and one that works for you as well. So we have a very special guest on with us today, Mr. Max Zulak.
Hello, thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you so much for being here. And last week when we introduced Wealthy Wednesdays with Men and this new little series that we're doing, we started to talk about the different types of men that a lot of us have been attracted to over the years and how well that has or has not worked.
Tiffany and I can laugh because we have inside information. We've made some fairly interesting choices, let's say, in our younger years.
Yeah. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm sure, I reckon every female I've ever spoken to has had at least one of these men in her life, in her world. Usually it's as a friend. They're the kind of men that are really kind and really lovely. And you know that if you chose to be with them in a relationship, they'd actually be really nice to you. But you just can't choose them for some reason. They're more like go into the friend category or, he's so lovely, but I can never actually be with him. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that today. And, we have one of those types of men on with us today. So, again, welcome, Max.
Thank you. Yeah, we, I think everyone can relate. Everyone knows this particular thing for themselves that are watching. And it applies to men and women too, which is the interesting part. And I think it was like about 4 months ago, Shannon and I were having a conversation with a friend, and this thing came up about being no count man. And they said, you should totally do a call about that. Because oftentimes people look at the relationship that Shannon and I have, and they're like, yeah, I want a relationship like that. And we've heard that from so many people. And we're like, do you really know what this relationship is? Do you really know what's required in relationship? And it sort of came up with the no count.
Is that Shannon laughing in the background?
I think she's fighting a spider, actually.
All right.
It's sort of that thing where like I would go and assist, and it's just the best time.
I love it because that's what a man like you does. He helps the lady with her spider in the kitchen.
Yes, that is one of the things, definitely. But it's that thing of where it's the man that would truly care about you, and that's often the thing where, okay, we'll talk, since we're in the ladies' lounge, we'll talk about like for the ladies specifically, and the guys will definitely get things from this as well and sort of be like, oh yeah, I can relate, or I know this dynamic. Like someone who truly cares about you, if you don't want to receive that, you will obviously do everything you can to reject that, including put them into the no count category and the loser category, And this doesn't mean that anybody who looks like any man that looks like they care for you and they're going to do anything for you and give themselves up for you, it doesn't mean you need to choose that man. However, to have the awareness that, hang on, look at the full picture and what is this man? Is this actually a possibility, rather than writing them off, straight away as a no count? No, this is not even a possibility. Totally, like Tiffany said, friend category only. But what if you really looked at the whole picture and even before you look at relationship, like, do you actually want a relationship? That's sort of like the number one thing. We're sort of skipping a couple of beats into this winner, loser, no count situation. But don't even assume that you want to or need to have a relationship. Like, that is absolutely number one. Because if you're coming to this from you need a relationship, then you're already off on the wrong foot. And then looking at winner and loser, it's like, firstly, look at, do you actually desire a relationship? Truth. Not just, you should have a relationship, otherwise you never fit in, you're always wrong, you're a loser. And obviously you don't want to be a loser, so you have to do what you need to do to not be a loser. Like, do you truly actually desire a relationship, or do you desire something completely different? There are so many options out there, you know, besides having a relationship.
Besides having a man.
Exactly. Besides having a man, owning a man, controlling a man, or receiving from a man.
Being perceived by the world that you have a man when you don't really actually want one, because you think that if you have that, then it's going to make you right, perfect, and correct. Exactly. But really, it's just going to make you unhappy.
Exactly. And then you have to like go into all these other things that then you think you should do in a relationship that you also don't want to do or be.
Yeah.
There's so many options. Like, you don't have to have a relationship to have men in your life as well.
Yes, that's a really, really, really good point, Max. And I'd like to talk a little bit in this as well. I know, Viv, you're about to say something, but I'd like to talk a little bit actually about the receiving kindness piece of this, because, you know, Max, you talked about, you know, if you can't receive that kindness that so many of us desire, but when it shows up, or at least, you know, I know a lot of people like this, and I know I was like this for years and years. You desire that kindness from a man or in your life, but then when it shows up, I mean, I personally was at times repulsed by it. Repulsed, like physically repulsed, you know? So I'd love to talk a little bit about that today as well. But Viv, sorry, you were going to say something too, weren't you?
Well, apparently we're sharing a brain again.
Oh, are we? Of course.
Because it's that exact thing, you know. I mean, a lot of us, and you mentioned it on the Facebook Live last week with Saul, about how we tend to be attracted to a familiar energy like our father, our brother, or whatever. And then how do you actually have a relationship that is what you truly desire to have, rather than it being a kind of cookie cutter sort of version of what you had with your dad or your brother, which ain't really the best choice. And just what you said, Max, it's like we do actually have a choice. It doesn't mean you're less than if you don't have a relationship. It doesn't mean that you're better than if you do have a relationship, but it's looking at what kind of man. I mean, when I first discovered this whole winner, loser, and no count, I'm like, oh, well, actually the category I went for were bad boys. You know, they've got a category all of their own.
Viv and the bad boys.
They're kind of the winners, though, aren't they?
Well, no, because I got them all.
You're the winner. You proved that you were the winner. Yeah, until you realized you weren't.
Look who I've got on my arm. You know, I'm cool. Look at this tough dude. You know, but it's the image.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was fortunate enough to meet Max many, many years ago, and it was that gentleness and the kindness and the peace that you have, Max, and that you've cultivated this. And I know life hasn't been easy for you. You've had a few, you know, rough bumps along the way with marriages or marriage and not working out. So, but the receiving of a guy that is kind, that is contributory, that's nurturing to your body, that loves your body, that wants to give to your body. You know, that was the relationship I got into after I left my marriage, was that. And I'm like, I don't actually know how to receive this. I don't really know what to do with this. This is completely foreign. So,
right.
Can you speak to that from your perspective, Max, of either not being received and then being received? I know that's a massive topic.
There's like so many different avenues that, like, as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, this and this and this and this and this. So it is like a really big topic. I guess, first of all, it's like kindness. I want to talk about that a little bit, because it's easy to take kindness into all of these particular things, like niceness, like they will always do what you want them to do. And they'll never hurt you, or you'll never feel hurt. Because in truth, nobody can ever hurt you. It's just to put that out there, first of all, because we're talking about relationship, and so many people go to like hurt and the thing and the, you know, the stuff that comes up there and that conflict. And it all comes back to choice again. Like, the person that you're looking at has total choice, and you have total choice. And that's somewhere where we need to begin from when we're talking about relationship and interacting with anybody, even way before relationship. And true kindness is allowing somebody else to choose whatever they need to choose. And that goes both ways, So if somebody is willing to have that for you and you're willing to have that for them, that's like one of the primary things that Gary Douglas talks about, like in just the very introduction to having a good relationship in the foundation manual. There's like 3 points there, and that's one of them. The willingness to have them choose whatever they need to choose, and that they have that for you as well. And that the sex is good is the other one. And you let them be as controlling as, what is that one? Like, they're as controlling as you are in bed.
Yeah.
And they contribute to your money flows. They're the 3 things to have a good relationship, essentially. So if you guys out there want more about relationship, like in the foundation manual and the choice of possibilities manuals are like amazing pieces of information about relationship and making that work. And then there's obviously the right relationship for you classes too. But this element of kindness is like, be in the question of what that actually is. Because there is no real definition of kindness. If you're willing to have that vulnerability with yourself, then you will discover like more of what kindness actually is. But if you're functioning from what things need to be and should be and have to be, you'll never really be able to discover like the greatness of kindness and what it actually is.
That's a great topic to touch on too, Max, because I know when Tiffany and I were looking at, no count and doing a bit of exploring within, the Access reference materials as to what no count is, it's also a man that doesn't give himself up. They've got a strong sense of who they are and what works for them and what kindness is and what receiving is. But they also don't give themselves up, because in truth, no woman loves a doormat. We think we want a doormat, but we actually don't really like it.
Yeah. And I mean, when I first started Access Consciousness and when I first met Shannon, I was like giving myself up left, right, and center. That's all I knew, So I was definitely a no count that would give themselves up for fucking anybody.
Yeah.
And so it was a real journey. Like Shannon was.
But in saying that, Max, you had it in you to come out of that. You know what I mean? Like yes, you were looking for something different. Yeah. Which is kind of what Viv was talking about. It's not saying that these no count men never give themselves up, because a lot of them do spend their life, like you said, doing that and being manipulated by people and being manipulated by men and by women and all that sort of thing as well. But it's that they know that that's not really working for them.
Totally. And so the thing I wanted to say too is Shannon was incredible in sort of like letting me choose that and still not, she wasn't like willing to have less, if you know what I mean. So she wouldn't like make herself less to have the relationship. So she was an incredible leader in always leading towards more, and then I would choose more and I would choose more, because she was sort of like way ahead of the game in terms of like where I was at. In terms of having herself and having like a direction in her life, I had like no clue what my direction was and what I desired and what was true for me at that point. And her not giving herself up allowed me to always have more of myself when I was willing to choose it. So once again, there is no perfect relationship. Like she went through some hard stuff in that, and we both grew, like, and I went through hard stuff. So there is no perfect relationship is my point, essentially. And there is no perfect process. And if you choose the no count, then everything will be amazing. Is you have to be willing to know, what's true for you, willing to know and just move forward, and that relationship with that no count man might not work out. And it's really about having the awareness of the no count and having the vulnerability to recognize that you're probably a no count on a lot of levels as well. And what's possible from there.
Yeah. I love that, Max, that, that piece that you said about Shannon's unwillingness to give herself up is kind of what led you to choosing to not give yourself up anymore.
It assisted me in a huge way.
Yeah. And so that, I think that's, it's funny because we're in the ladies' lounge and we're talking about, this no count man, right? But also looking at, if you would actually like a level of kindness, or a man who has a level of kindness, but also this strength and this, willingness to be him, this willingness to allow you to be you, then sometimes part of the key of that is us being willing to be the leaders at times. It's like allowing the man to lead, but also knowing when it's time to lead, in that sense that if you are not willing to give yourself up, then that invites them to choose that too. They may not choose it. And that's also about allowing them to choose whatever they're going to choose, but being that invitation for a different possibility for everyone, but for the men in your life as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it really just comes down to both people. If one of you is not creating a life in the relationship, then the relationship can't really work. Both people need to be creating their lives and the relationship. There's sort of like three entities involved. There's like you, there's them, and then there's the entity of the relationship, and it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And so you need to like nurture and ask questions about, and create that as well.
And another great point, Tiff, that you touched on too, and Max, it's when, for a person that's coming out of giving themselves up, it's a whole new universe and reality to play with. Because if you've been used to being badgered or nagged or told or, directed or choreographed, for you actually to have somebody in your life that gives you the space to look at what you're choosing, or to actually give you that space to say, hey, you do have a choice here. That, I find that sometimes can be a bit, what do I do here? Deer in the headlights type thing, until you find your feet and find what it is that you want to start putting your energy into and creating.
Yeah. So I want to mention a little bit of the winners and the losers. Like the winners are sort of the people that, and you guys might have spoken about this on the Ladies Lounge already, but the winners are the people that we think are like the right person to have. If, like Viv said beforehand, if I have this person, then I'm a winner. I've got the right one. It's all great. But the thing is about the winners that they will reject you, essentially. Like they'll also function from a place like they're too good for you, and it'll never really work if you look at somebody as a winner like that. And the losers are the ones that are like the complete, no, if I choose that person, I'll be a loser too. So I will definitely not choose that person.
And the losers are also, though, the ones that, like, they want you. They really like you and they want you. But, oftentimes we go, well, if they want me, then they must be a loser.
Exactly. They want me so bad, they're definitely a loser.
Yeah. Scary, but true.
Yeah. And so the thing about these three things, it's literally just about awareness. There is no right choice. Like to choose a no count is not a right choice. To choose the winner is not the right choice. It's just about awareness of like where we function from and where we have our blind spots to certain people, to not be willing to receive all of who they are. Because when you meet someone who you put into the no count category, like you want to not just put the blinders of no count on there. Oh, they're a no count, and that's what I'm supposed to go for. It's like open up the blinders and go like, what questions can you ask? What question can you be to? What can you receive about this person and about yourself to have more awareness?
Yeah, and it's also, I guess, starting to notice, those sorts of men around you that you don't even consider, you know what I mean? And starting to look at, I've never considered letting them in various ways, whatever that is, not even talking about having a relationship. But if you start to open up the possibilities and open up your receiving to some of the men that you have really dismissed, and just look at it, like you say, Max, from a place of awareness and a place of what energies do they have, and even looking at, if I did, not that you have to choose it, but if I did have this man in my life, what would that contribute? What would that create, what would be possible. And again, just from that place, I love that, Max, just from that place of looking at it and looking at it, what it would create, and not necessarily having to choose it, but just really discovering some new energies and some new possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would recommend too, like making a choice whether, because there's one thing of where we can look at stuff and endlessly look at stuff and never really choose, but you have to be willing to choose your reality. And when you make choices, it creates movement in your life, you know? So always like continue to choose. Because I'm not really sure what I'm saying that, but there's some energy of like, you know, awareness can be this thing of like just standing back and watching, but that's not really what it is. You know, awareness is actually engaging and making choices. Choice creates awareness. So if you're not choosing, you're not going to have more awareness essentially, and you're just sort of like watching and observing from the outside, which is, I think, what a lot of humanoids probably do as well. So let me sit back here and watch and not get too involved in that messy business. But yeah, like explore stuff, check it out, like choose an account, choose a winner, choose a loser, and see what happens. Like that's how you will discover as well. Like don't hold back and wait for the right choice. Because that is like, that's one of the biggest killers, really.
It's also
you spend your life waiting.
Yeah. Go, Viv.
Yeah, and it's also not about judging whether somebody is, because I can hear people's brains now going into, are they a winner? Are they a loser? You know, it's not about the judgment of that person or, you know, scrutinizing them or trying to work out which category they fit in. It's just the willingness to receive everything from everybody. If, you know, when you look at 50% of the planet, let's say 50% of the planet is male, you know, they have a male body. And if you have points of view about particular types of men or particular energies, you're not just cutting off that energy from that one person, from that one man. It will be everybody that has that energy that you've decided you won't receive from. So, you know, as an exercise, what if you'd be willing to just be with every man, every lady, whoever whoever's watching, and look at what you're willing to receive and be aware of any resistance or any judgment or any kind of, like you say, Max, hanging back or not wanting to engage, and ask, what would receiving this person be like for me?
Yeah, and even check it out. Talk to them, you know, like go on a date, do something with them, and then find out.
And even just a smile, you know, even just a smile to somebody that might be at the checkout or that you come across walking down the street. Yeah. Smile at people you wouldn't normally smile at and see what that creates. Because part of what you said with Shannon is she's willing to be the leader. And there are times when, you know, one of us, if you're in a relationship, there has to be times where one person's more willing to go, okay, this is what we're going after. This is what we're looking to create. But they need to know what that is. And so to recognize what that is, recognize the energies, recognize, this is something that would really contribute to our relationship or to me, and be willing to go for that.
And I'll clarify that leader statement that I made earlier a little bit as well. It's essentially, it's like being the lead. It is being the leader of your own life. And the key point is like, choosing to create your life, no matter if anybody's going to come with you or not. That's a true leader. Like fake leaders and sort of like more like, what are they called? People that have followers.
Influencers.
Yeah, you're on Instagram and you're an influencer.
They need to be the star. The stars need followers.
So someone that needs followers is not a leader. They're like something else. They're sort of like wanting to have a group and a cult and a followership essentially. But a leader is someone who creates their life and doesn't need anybody to follow them. So that's the key. So it probably won't be a we in the relationship even when you're leading. It's you're aware of an energy of like, this is what's going to create greater, and you go for that. And the other person can choose to come with you or not, you know, but that's being a leader. So you're including them, but you're not expecting them or requiring them to choose a specific thing. It's their choice what they will choose. And that makes just everything, like when you sort of willing to get that, it makes everything so much easier for one. It sort of throws the conclusion and the fake security that comes with that so many people do in relationship out of the window. But that's where you're actually then stepping into creation of the relationship. Like you're choosing, you're allowing the other person to choose, and then that can organically create into something that actually works, rather than, oh, if I choose this, what are they going to choose? And they should choose this because I don't want to lose them. And here's another big key, the willingness to lose everything, including them.
Yeah.
That's another whole ladies' lounge topic.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last week, as actually when we had Saul on too. Just that willingness to choose for you, even if it means you're going to lose the person. Yeah.
Because they still have total choice. When you make a choice, they still have total choice. Only because you're choosing something, it doesn't mean that they have any less choice. So, and this is a way, like I said before, you can create a relationship that actually works, is by the willingness to choose and the allowance for them to choose. It's like such a key element. And communicating about it, talk to them about it, but don't not choose because you think they won't or anything.
Yeah.
And this particular point will really be challenging the control freaks that are watching this as well, because it's like, oh yes, I'm happy for them to choose as long as they choose what I want them to choose. It starts to highlight where you are doing control, and there's another massive topic, but you can control from possibilities and you can also control from limitation and contraction. So that's another topic for another day, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And it's easy to kind of sit around and talk about this stuff, but we do find, especially in relationships, I find so many people, and I've been here myself and I know you guys have too, you get so tied up and so tied up with this stuff. There can be this difficulty and issues and problems and drama, and I think without having these tools in my life to get myself out of some of those places that are really hard to get out of sometimes in relationship, or even in relationship to yourself, I don't even know where I'd be without them. I really don't. We sit here and talk about it like it's really easy, and essentially it is, but sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes we're really caught up and we're really, in this knot and this, whatever.
Well, all three of us have had to make big choices in our relationships, in our lives, and that to discover what's actually true for us and what works. I've seen that with all three of us.
Yeah.
So this is a huge topic, and Max, you have a 3-part telecall coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's called How to Get Your Own No Count Humanoid Man. And the tagline is, that will actually be nice to you. And essentially this came from a conversation I had with Shannon and a friend of ours. And because so many people ask or say to us, I want a relationship like you have. So they're already coming to a conclusion about what they think. They have this whole idea about what our relationship is, without having any idea of what the relationship actually is. So Shannon came up with the title of how to get your own no count humanoid man. So it's like the no count humanoid man opening a place where, women and men can ask questions about this whole thing, and we can actually dig deeper into this whole thing. What is actually true for you in this topic?
Yeah.
What is unearthing what's true for everybody that comes to the call to find out how they can actually use this for themselves. That awareness.
Yeah.
So
it begins on December the 27th. Is that right?
Yes. 27, 28, 29. So it's like a Christmassy New Year's possibility.
So for any of you that are out there looking to create a different possibility with a relationship, that could be a nice Christmas present for yourself to begin the new year with. Okay, my New Year's resolution is
Yeah. And the amazing thing about being, having like a 3-part thing, having 3 different kind of sessions with you, Max, is that they actually get to bring up stuff that's going on for them too, and have you facilitate them through those sticky, stuck things that so often it's so hard to get ourselves out of, or even see that we're in. So, you're awesome, and you have a lot of experience with all of this stuff with relationships and men and women. And anyone who's watching and who's keen to get a little bit deeper into this topic, he's your man. Well, he's not. He's Shannon's man, but he might help you find yours. Let's put it that way.
Thank you so much for joining us, Max, for giving us your time from Portugal today. And
thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
My lovely lady friend Tiffany. Mwah! Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for doing these calls for everybody. Amazing.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.